Diría que lo más importante para cualquier estudiante de español es ser consistente, regular con el aprendizaje. I don't really think that there is a best method overall. It really depends on the person. The best method, I think people probably should just focus on finding a few things that they really enjoy doing. What I recommend people focus on in terms of like priority list is active listening. Two things that I think are really helpful are lots of repetition and listening while reading. A little bit of repetition and some listening while reading really goes a long way.
Hello everyone and welcome again to the channel. Today I am here with Connor from Breakthrough Spanish. Connor, hola.
Hola Nate, gracias por la invitación.
De nada, woohoo! So Connor, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and how you learned Spanish.
Well, I am from the United States, from North Carolina more specifically, and I've been learning Spanish for a very long time. Probably about 17 years. Yeah, I really love it. Feel like I learn new things every day with what I do here on my channel. And on my channel and with Breakthrough Spanish, I help people basically have more confident spoken Spanish by building solid pronunciation, regular habits of speaking, and generally more effective learning routines. That's kind of what I focus on.
And how did you start learning Spanish? Tell us a little bit about that.
I think kind of like you, I started in school and I liked it from the beginning, and but what really got me hooked on it was that my family hosted exchange students, and
Interesting.
we had someone from Japan when I was in middle school, and then that kind of first exposed me to the idea of like other countries and what might be out there. And then when I was in maybe 10th grade, we had an exchange student from Argentina who stayed with us for a while. And so I really felt like I got to know a Spanish-speaking country and got to have a lot more of a personal connection with the language, started to find music that I liked and things like that. And so the class started to feel a little bit less like something abstract and started to feel a lot more like something that I could use in life and that I was genuinely motivated to want to use in life. So
Sure.
That was kind of the beginning of that story for me, like in terms of what motivated me to want to make Spanish part of my life and be able to actually use it. And then after that, I've had a number of chances to travel. I got to go to Guatemala a year later for my first international trip, and then I worked up the courage to use my Spanish. After like a week there, I finally tried to speak Spanish with someone. And then a year after that, I got to go back to Guatemala. And then the big thing that that really helped me start to put into practice a lot of the stuff that I was learning was that I went to go be an exchange student myself, which was something at that point I'd been really, really dreaming about for years. And I went to Chile, Santiago, Chile. And I was there for about a year. So that had a really big impact on me and my Spanish. And since then, it's been a long time, but I still think about it all the time. And I've learned a lot, from that experience and everything else.
Sure. Dude, very, very cool. The exchange student thing is really, really interesting. And for everyone watching, what do you think is the best method to learn Spanish? The Connor from Breakthrough Spanish method.
Honestly, that's such a hard question because I don't really think that there is a best method overall. It really depends on the person. I mean, there are things that are more effective or efficient than others, but it doesn't really matter if something is effective or efficient if you don't like it and you won't stick with it. So I would say that the best method is the one that you can stick with for long enough to get good. Like it takes a long time to get good at a foreign language. I mean, if you can dedicate many, many hours a day, you can get good pretty quickly. But most people don't have that much time in a day and they're trying to squeeze this in with the other stuff they have going on in life. And so, in terms of the best method, I think people probably should just focus on finding a few things that they really enjoy doing and doing what they can to like stick with that as much as possible every day. For me, what I find valuable and what I often tell people, like what I recommend people focus on in terms of like priority list is active listening being like the cornerstone of an effective learning routine. If you're a beginner, there's a lot of things that you can't quite do yet. So if you're a total beginner, I would use a simple program to get some of the basics. Language transfer is a really cool one. And then dive into listening really as much as you can. And then from there, using what you learned in your listening a little bit every day. So a simple routine really of just listening and trying to use what you learn in some way, whether that's speaking or writing or just making some sentences, forming a little bit of kind of making the language your own in a way. And then when it comes to trickier parts of the language, like the grammar, I really advocate for taking things on just kind of as it comes kind of a way. So rather than trying to go through things linearly, really focusing on exposing yourself to a lot of the language and then dealing with the tricky things as you encounter them and as you feel like, I can't really progress further past this until I know how to do this one thing in terms of grammar.
And when it comes to active listening, what are those things that you feel like are really effective to listen to? Podcasts, audiobooks, this kind of thing. What would you recommend?
Well, it totally depends on your level. Something that could be effective or helpful for one person would be really discouraging or frustrating for another person. So it's important to find stuff that is in line with your interests and also that is pretty appropriate for your level. Assuming you've got like a lower intermediate level, there are some really cool podcasts. Like one that I really like is called Chill Spanish Listening Practice. This is this guy from Peru. Well, he's, I think, American and from Peru, who speaks at a really reasonable pace and tons of interesting short lessons that you can repeat. And so two things that I think are really helpful are lots of repetition and listening while reading. And so podcasts or YouTube videos can be really good for this, and in particular short ones, because you can get the transcript and listen while you read it and break it down and then listen to it again a second time. So in that way, you can listen to and learn from stuff that's maybe a little bit above your level, but way more interesting. So you're a little bit less limited by the stuff, by things that, by your level. You can find things that are just interesting to you. And if you spend a little bit more time with them and you're patient and, can push through some of the uncertainty that comes with trying to listen to things that are tricky, a little bit of repetition and some listening while reading really goes a long way.
Totally. I think a really important thing about kind of what you're talking about is the fact that you need to be able to be consistent. And one of the best ways to stay consistent is to do things that you actually like.
For sure.
So if you prefer listening, then do that. If you prefer, watching YouTube videos or whatever, then do that. Whatever you can actually keep up, because I believe there's a quote that says, the best strategy is the worst strategy if you don't actually do it. So in a way, I think the best strategy is just something that you can do every single day.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, yeah, just that, the daily habit is kind of a hard thing to keep up. Like I mentioned a minute ago, learning Spanish takes a while. So you got to stick with it every day, but that's kind of hard. And so you got to find whatever works for you. And, in my case anyway, listening is the way that I make that happen, because you can do it when you're doing other things. And so, of course, it's best it's effective and helpful to do things that are more active and paying really close attention. But sometimes you don't have the time or the energy to do that. And so things like just putting on a listening exercise or a podcast or a video in the background or without paying complete attention to it is definitely better than nothing.
Totally. Love that. Okay, cool. All right, let's switch to Spanish real quick.
Okay.
I want to ask you, ¿tienes otros consejos que quieres compartir con nosotros? Un mensaje, motivación, lo que tú quieras.
Bueno, diría que lo más importante para cualquier estudiante de español es ser consistente, regular con el aprendizaje. Como decía antes, aprender un poquito cada día vale más que aprender una hora los domingos. Y sobre todo, tomárselo con calma, porque es un proceso que dura tiempo y también es un proceso no muy lineal. No es un proceso lineal. Vas a dar varios pasos hacia delante y uno o dos pasos hacia atrás, y puede ser desalentador ese sentimiento, pero es parte del proceso, porque
Exacto.
Sí, aprender español no es así, es mucho más así.
Exacto. Como una montaña rusa.
Eso, exactamente eso.
Pues muchas gracias, Connor.
A
Chicos,
ti.
grabamos un video en el canal de Connor, entonces vayan a checar eso. Connor, muchas gracias y que tengan muy buen día.
Gracias.
Chao.